I'm 35 years old, and I'm living in a nightmare that I started myself. Sounds ridiculous, right? A man complaining about intimacy. Anyone hearing this would think, you should be grateful, not whining. But what if I told you? I'm being fined if I don't meet a quota of 5 times a week? No joke. No exaggeration. It's a handwritten contract. Signed. With terms. With a clear penalty. 5 times a week. Miss wants 1 million Vietnamese dongs. And the person who drafted that contract is my wife. We've been married for 7 years, 2 kids. From the outside, our marriage looks peaceful and complete. But inside, there are gaps no one sees. I'm the one with the higher drive, not because I'm unfaithful, not because I'm some kind of deviant. It's just that after being worn down by work all day, I want to touch my wife. I want closeness, comfort. I want to feel desired, to be reassured that I'm still wanted. But my wife is different. She's tired, exhausted from the kids, irritable from lack of sleep, and gradually, the head shakes outnumbered the nods. I'm exhausted. The baby was fussy today. Have you looked at your belly lately? Each sentence felt like a light slap, not painful at first, but they accumulated. At first, I laughed it off, told myself to be understanding, to empathize. But men, we carry certain things in silence. Repeated rejection isn't just physical deprivation. It hits straight at your self-respect. I became irritated, snapped for no reason, talked less. Then one night, after a long, draining day at work, I walked into the bedroom with a small, fragile hope. My wife was lying there, scrolling on her phone. I was rejected again. No shouting, no drama, just a quiet, I'm not in the mood tonight, and I exploded. I said things I'm ashamed to remember. I accused her of being cold. I said she didn't understand her husband. And then, I let out the stupidest sentence of my life. Maybe I should just go outside and take care of it. The room went silent. No fan noise, no heavy breathing, just a cold, suffocating silence. I thought I had just thrown down a warning. I thought she would get angry, cry, be afraid of losing me. I thought I was holding the upper hand. But my wife isn't that kind of woman. She sat up, looked straight at me. No tears, no yelling, no scene, just a slight smirk that sent chills down my spine. You want to take care of it? She asked calmly. I actually thought I had one. I nodded almost defiantly. She didn't say anything else, just walked out of the room. I thought that was the end of the argument. At worst, I expected a few days of Cold War. I thought everything was still under my control. I had no idea that in that very moment, I had handed all the control over to her. That night, after the kids were asleep, my wife placed in a 4-sheet of paper in front of me. Handwritten, clear, short, cold. I looked down. My heart skipped. 5 times a week. Miss won 1 million Vietnamese dongs penalty. I looked up at my wife. She was still smiling. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was no longer the one in control. My wife didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't smash anything, didn't ask who I was going out with. She just smiled. It wasn't a loud smile, but it was enough to send a chill down my spine. 5 times a week. Miss won 1 million fine. Her voice was steady, like she was reading company regulations. I looked at the paper. Neat handwriting, bullet points, clear clauses. It even stated, counted from Monday to Sunday. I should have sensed something was wrong, but instead of fear, I felt excited. All I thought was, that's it. 5 times a week? What's so hard about that? I signed. No hesitation, no negotiation, no backing down. I signed like a man reclaiming his power. The first week, I really thought I had won. Everything was intense, new, like I was being recognized. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3. Each time felt like conquering a challenge. But then, my body started to speak. Week 2, work piled up, deadlines stacked high. My boss was pressuring me. I came home nearly exhausted, but I still had to meet the quota. The 4th time that week fell on Friday night. I was so tired my head was spinning, but I pushed through. It wasn't desire anymore. It wasn't connection. It was obligation. By Sunday, anxiety crept in. I'm still missing one. That thought haunted me all day. I no longer touched my wife because I wanted to. I touched her because I was afraid of losing money. And that was when everything started to change. Week 3, our child got sick. I stayed up 2 nights straight. I went to work like a lifeless shell. At night, all I wanted was to collapse into bed and sleep until morning. But the schedule kept running. 3/5, 4/5. Sunday night, I was drunk from entertaining clients. I thought, missing one time she'll probably let it slide. The next morning, before I was fully awake, my wife placed a short sentence in front of me. You missed one last week. Please transfer the money. No raised voice, no sarcasm, just a notification. I forced a laugh, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She opened her phone and showed me her records. Dates, check marks. My throat tightened. 1 million. Not a big amount compared to my income, but the feeling of being evaluated, that was what unsettled me. And then things kept slipping. A week with unexpected work. A week I was exhausted. A week our child was fussy. 3/5, 4/5. And every missed time meant another payment. At first, I tried to compensate, strategize, but the body isn't a machine. Some nights I lay there, mind empty, heart beating slowly, cold sweat on my skin. I started to fear walking into the bedroom, fear the yellow light casting down, fear the sound of the door closing, fear the feeling of being evaluated for performance. I used to be the one demanding. Now I was the one chasing quotas. There were months I lost nearly 10 million, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't have the strength. I began to avoid it, stayed late at the office, pretended to fall asleep early, but my wife didn't remind me, didn't pressure me with words. She just kept records. The quieter she was, the heavier the pressure felt. Her smile was no longer gentle. It felt like a reminder. You chose this, and she was right. I chose it. I once used intimacy as a weapon. Now it had come back as a leash. No emotion, no spontaneity, no anticipation, just counting, just completing, just paying fines. And from that moment on, I began to fear my wife's smile. Now, I am no longer the one who demands. I don't dare bring it up anymore. I don't dare say I'm tired. I don't dare admit I'm under pressure. I don't dare say anything that could be misunderstood as blame. I've become silent. It's strange. I used to think I was the one lacking. Now I feel like I'm being worn down. I'm beginning to understand something I never considered before: how heavy it feels to be forced. Not forced with ropes, not forced with shouting, but forced by an agreement I consented to myself. That kind of pressure is the scariest. Some nights I lie next to my wife, staring at the dark ceiling. I no longer think about desire. I think about schedules. I no longer think about emotions. I think about numbers. I no longer reach out because of love. I reach out because I'm afraid of falling short. And what hurts me most isn't the money. It's realizing I'm beginning to understand how my wife used to feel. The times she was tired. The times she wasn't in the mood. The times she reluctantly went along with me. Maybe back then, she felt pressured too. I just didn't see it. I only saw my own lack. I didn't see her exhaustion. And now a question keeps gnawing at me. Is this really a solution? Or are we punishing each other through intimacy? I once used words to hurt her. Now she uses rules to keep me in line. Who's right? Who's wrong? Or are we both losing? Sometimes I want to tear up that piece of paper. I want to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Let's stop this. But I'm afraid. Afraid she'll say, so now you finally understand? Afraid she no longer trusts me. Afraid her wounds run deeper than I ever realized. And I'm also afraid, if we tear up this agreement, will things go back to the way they were? Or have we crossed a line we can't return from? Intimacy is supposed to be natural. It's supposed to be mutual. It's when two people want each other, reach for each other, breathe together. Not a contract, not a KPI, not a penalty fee. But I was the one who turned it into a power struggle. I used to think I was the victim. Now I see I was both the cause and the one enduring the consequences. And what scares me most isn't losing money. It's the possibility that one day, we'll look at each other and feel nothing. Just two people living together out of responsibility. Am I paying the price? Maybe. But the bigger question is, are we destroying our marriage ourselves? If you were me, would you apologize first? Or would you openly cancel the agreement? Would you choose your ego or the truth? Comment honestly. Don't hold back. I want to hear even the harshest words. Because maybe one sentence from you will decide whether I keep enduring or dare to change before it's too late. Honestly, he brought this on himself. When he confidently said he would go elsewhere to relieve himself, he sounded so bold. Now that his wife used that same logic to bind him, he's complaining? Women are not emotional switches you turn on and off at will. This is called facing consequences. I disagree. Since when does facing consequences mean turning marriage into a penalty contract? That's reverse coercion. Marriage is about understanding, not power games. This only deepens the wounds. I think the wife handled it cleverly. No screaming, no tears, just using rules to teach him a lesson. Sometimes men only understand pressure when they experience it themselves. Clever? That's revenge, not resolution. If she felt hurt, she should have said it directly. Using intimacy as punishment is dangerous. Eventually, they'll only see resentment in each other. This reads like a financial loan agreement. He signed without thinking and now regrets it. He's 35, not 18. That kind of impulsiveness is embarrassing. That's unfair. Anyone can say something stupid when emotionally overwhelmed. The issue is both of them handling conflict poorly. You can't blame just one side. As a woman, if my husband ever said I'll go elsewhere, I would react even harder. That sentence is deeply insulting. Don't underestimate the damage of words. But does forcing 5 times a week restore respect? Or does it just turn the relationship into a power struggle? Real respect comes voluntarily, not from fear of penalties. The core issue is lack of communication. 7 years of marriage without honest conversations about needs and exhaustion? Explosion was inevitable. Easy to say just communicate. Once trust is damaged, calm conversations aren't that simple. Sometimes people need a shock to wake up. I actually feel more sympathy than blame for the husband. Work pressure, kids, performance expectations, then added quotas? That's overwhelming. Yes, he was wrong first, but this punishment feels excessive. Sympathy? What about the times the wife was exhausted but still pressured? When women endure, no one calls them victims. But when men feel pressure, suddenly it's too much. The real problem isn't 5 times or 3 times. It's turning intimacy into negotiation currency. Once emotions become bargaining chips, cracks appear. But without consequences, would he ever reflect? Maybe this sentence is exactly what makes him understand her past exhaustion. This sounds more like a chess match than a marriage. One threatens, the other retaliates with contracts. No one wants to step down. Step down after such a damaging statement? Words can destroy trust instantly. Some things can't just be undone with a casual apology. If this continues, distance will grow. Intimacy without emotion becomes routine. Routine turns into coldness. Not necessarily. Some couples grow stronger after intense conflict. Sometimes you need friction to mature. The biggest problem is ego. He won't sincerely apologize. She won't let go. 2 oversized egos suffocate the marriage. The real question, do they want to win or preserve their family? If they want to win, keep punishing each other. If they want to save it, someone has to stop first. In marital wars, no one truly wins. From a legal perspective, agreements between spouses are valid if voluntary and not against the law. However, if financial penalties create psychological pressure, the agreement may contradict social ethics. Marriage is not a commercial contract with KPIs and fines. But he signed voluntarily. No one forced him. Adults with full legal capacity must take responsibility for what they sign. You can't claim coercion afterward just because you regret it. Voluntary on paper does not always mean voluntary psychologically. When agreements arise during emotional conflict, indirect pressure may exist. Tying intimacy to money distorts marital equality and respect. Then shouldn't we also examine the husband's earlier emotional pressure? If fairness matters, this is simply a consequence of his previous behavior. If he previously pressured her, that was wrong too. But one wrong does not justify another. Financial penalties in intimate matters create unstable and potentially harmful dynamics. Many couples have household reward and penalty funds to maintain discipline. Why is this suddenly dangerous? Perhaps it's just their way of balancing needs. There is a difference between fining someone for not washing dishes and fining someone for intimacy. Introducing money into private relations risks blurring consent and obligation, causing long-term psychological harm. Law should not intrude deeply into bedroom matters. If both agree and no one files complaints, it's a private arrangement. Legal concerns arise only with clear coercion or abuse. True, law should not micromanage private life. But when pressure, fear, or manipulation appear, legal and ethical boundaries matter. Sustainable marriage relies on natural consent, not financial enforcement. Perhaps the issue isn't legal at all. It's emotional injury disguised as a contract. Law provides a framework, but healing requires communication. Without addressing ego and hurt, whether they cancel or keep the deal, conflict remains.